We have finally received a pretty solid amount of information in regards to the Warzone Pacific update, taking us into the island of Caldera, and I'm pumped, actually. This is actually something that I've been looking forward to a lot. It's been fun playing Vanguard, it's been fun playing Battlefield a little bit here and there. I have my frustrations with both. You know what, I've actually enjoyed Vanguard, though, a lot more than I thought I would. In past videos, I've talked about like how I wasn't overly excited and so on about Vanguard, but it's actually been a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun playing with the guys, and it's been a good time. So we have Warzone Pacific coming in about a week, and I'm pumped. So let's talk about it a little bit here. I want to just outline the fact that the website I'm getting this information from is from the Twitter of ModernWarzone. Fantastic page, so informational. They create content and posts that really touch heavily on first-person shooters, mainly Call of Duty, mainly Warzone, but others as well. So if you are interested in other games, it's not just Call of Duty and Warzone, even though it kind of like is labeled like it would be. But anyway, it is a great page, and they posted this great article. We're gonna dig into it, kind of pull it apart a little bit. What I want to do is I want to pull apart the parts that I think are valuable to me. You know, start a conversation. That's what with these videos, that's usually what I like to do. I like to try and start a conversation and see if people are interested in the same things that I am, because there's things that you might not even notice in these articles, you might not even notice in these updates, and then when you go into the game, you're all surprised by it. And I think it's kind of nice to have an idea of what you can do and what you can't do when you're starting a new game. And Warzone Pacific, really, it's a new game, and I think we are going to be surprised by how different it's going to be. I think all of us are going to be quite surprised by that. So let's hop into it. Super good article, tons of great photos of the map, and you can just probably get a real good depiction of what Warzone Pacific is going to look like. And it looks great. The island of Caldera looks beautiful, and I've noticed, if there's one thing in these photos that I've noticed, the photos are vibrant. Like if you go into Verdansk right now, it's quite boring, right? It's quite plain. It's kind of like faded out, unless you can get the filters through your PC and kind of add them to that. It's a pretty boring looking map. What in the frick is going on over there? Hey! Freaking cats are fighting viciously. Anyway, it's a boring looking map, okay, to sum it up, to say the least. So, Warzone Pacific doesn't look that way. And I'm hoping when you hop into the island of Caldera when this releases next week, I hope that when we hop into it, it looks just as the photos do. And it's vibrant, it's colorful, it's beautiful. And, you know, let's pull apart this article, because it's a very good article that touches on a lot. I'm going to take it below so you can kind of look it up yourself as well. So the nice thing about all these photos they've placed in the article, they touch a little bit on each of them, giving you an idea of what they might look like. And that's pretty neat. So you can kind of look at that and see, you know, maybe where you want to land first, maybe what do you want to check out. The gulag and the changes to it are interesting, to say the least. I don't know if they're good, I don't know if they're bad. I am interested to see how this plays out, because coming in after a gulag win with just your pistol and hoping that you get your loot or good loot, it's stressful. Okay, and it might not be now, because, you know, Verdansk is kind of drawn out and the game's kind of drawn out, but I do think this is going to hype the game up again, and we're going to be in situations where it's going to create stressful situations for us again. So the gulag now gives you more than a second chance of victory. When Warzone Pacific drops, any player who wins a gulag will drop back in with the weapon or weapons and lethal equipment given to them during that deadly duel. Now, the only problem with that is the gulag weapons historically have been awful, right? Bare bones weapons, terrible weapons. So I don't know if that's good or bad. And that's what I'm thinking. Like, if you get a shotgun or if you get a machine pistol and they drop you back in with that, yeah, it's not worse than a pistol, but it could be just as frustrating, right? Because you know you got to go land back in a hot area with your team with those weapons. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. It says here, those who survived Iron Trials 84, the mode where this feature was first tested, may know a pro strategy involving loadout conservation. Any ammo and remaining equipment carries over between the gulag and the redeploy. Deal with the enemy efficiently, and you will have more at your disposal back in Caldera. So we'll see what happens with that. So a couple more things here. Dead silence is being nerfed. Stopping power rounds are gone. They should have been gone forever ago. And Call of Duty has this weird thing where if they implement something into a game and it absolutely sucks and mostly everybody hates it, they just still leave it in there. It's like they can't. It's like the files are impossible to delete and they can't delete them. That's how they act. It's so odd. It's just the weirdest thing to me. I never understood that. Like, stopping power rounds, the most OP thing. Like, you know, we've all died to them and been so frustrated. We've all used them and it saved us in a situation, but we know that they should not be in the game. Dead silence being nerfed is an obvious one. Like, you shouldn't have complete silence in Warzone. I don't think you should. I understand it being in like Vanguard and so on, but not in Warzone. I don't think it's a place for it. Okay, now this is a big one. A lot of people are going to be indifferent about this, especially the sweats. Now, really, sweats is just saying the people who are good at the game. Another change involves loadout drop markers. They can now only be purchased from buy stations after the loadout drop event occurs in a match, effectively shifting their usefulness from an immediate power spike to a more tactical choice in the mid to end game. Now, my brother and I talk about all this stuff, right? Whenever big information comes out, and we were talking yesterday, he mentions that's going to make loadout drops so much more hot, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's true, right? So you might not even want to get your loadout. You might just want to save your money, wait near a buy. The second that loadout comes, the strategy might just be to buy one instead of pushing it. People are going to be waiting. It's going to be a rat race for that. And we just don't know what that's going to look like. Now, I can picture people waiting and not people rushing it right away more often than not. But again, we'll see how it plays out. That brings me slight anxiety just thinking about it already. So now, one of the things that I found really interesting here, there's a couple things in this part here. Now, this is pretty neat. Okay, right here. Gas masks won't interrupt as many actions as they did previously, making it easier to pull your mask off or on, as well as plating up or reloading a weapon while getting out of the circle collapse, but still always favoriting the combat advantage to those safely inside the circle. Makes sense. This is pretty cool. So very realistic, and you know people are going to use it accordingly. So it says, speaking of science, fire-based equipment now causes smoke when it hits water. Okay, so you have a Molotov, if you have probably like a thermite. The second it hits water, it's adding a new layer of tactics when traversing through open, shallow pools. And so the second it hits water, it's going to cause smoke. So for example, if two of you are holding, like, I'm curious how much smoke it's going to cause. Like, is it going to be an absurd amount, or is it just going to be a little bit that's going to do nothing? I would hope that it would cause more than less, because I think that makes sense, right? Because if you're trying to get across water or get across something, that's a really good tactic. You could throw a crap load of thermites and Molotovs or whatever to create this smoke cloud so that you can use it. And like, that's more realistic. I think that's actually quite neat. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, last but not least, we have, oh my goodness, long awaited integration of anti-cheat. I cannot freaking wait. Now, I've come across cheaters in Vanguard already, but it hasn't been all that much. Like, there's been a handful because I've been playing crossplay, for sure. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, but there hasn't been all that much. So I've talked about in an earlier video how the kernel level driver will subsequently be released for Vanguard at a later date. I could honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I could care less if it didn't come to Vanguard. It seems odd to me for people that love Vanguard. It's kind of crappy. It does seem odd how it's not coming out at the same time, but that goes to show that they're probably not going to be using the same engine. If you think about it, like, it would be so much easier to integrate this anti-cheat into a game where there's less players in a match than integrate it into a game where there's over 100 players in a match with all these servers flying around. Like, it would be so much easier to integrate it into Vanguard. So why isn't it? And we have heard that the game's going to play, that Warzone Pacific is going to play a lot like Vanguard, if not the same. But this goes to show that it actually might not. It might not play like Vanguard. Because if it's coming out for Warzone, which is a harder running game than Vanguard, why isn't it come out for Vanguard? That would be the only thing that I can think of, is the fact that Warzone Pacific is going to play more like the style it is right now, which I'm actually okay with, by the way. I like the engine that they're using now, opposed to the Vanguard one, than the Vanguard one, right? I would honestly just be okay with that. So I guess we will see about that. I'm excited nonetheless, and I think that this game is something that a lot of people are excited for. I think it's going to revive a little bit of love for the series, because, you know, Vanguard did for the diehards. It's a breath of fresh air. The old maps, the guns, it's just something new. It's something fresh. But I do think that when Warzone Pacific gets pushed out next week, that we're going to be enjoying a game again, and it's been a little bit. So that'll be today's video, just a little bit of tearing apart of a big article on what we can look forward to next week. And again, I'll take this article below. You can check it for yourself. That'll do it for today's video. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care.